Hello there, this is Max Cantiglia from Zilliqa. How are we all today? I've been asked by friends, family members and even a few colleagues to try and put together a short video that demystifies these things that you're probably hearing a lot about today called NFTs. NFT stands for non-fungible token. So what exactly are non-fungible tokens? Well, actually, non-fungible tokens are just units of data. So they're digital files that you can hold on a blockchain or a digital ledger. Let me pause there for a moment, because if you don't know what blockchains or digital ledgers actually are, pause here. Find a video on YouTube, because there are thousands of them that explain far better than I could what blockchains actually do, and then come back again. And even if you do know what blockchains are, you might want to hit pause and go and grab a cup of tea. So going back to the definition of a non-fungible token, a non-fungible token is basically a digital file that we can store on a blockchain. And every NFT is unique. That's why they're called non-fungible. Fungible tokens, or fungible things, are things that can be interchanged for exactly the same value. So for example, if I give you a £10 note and you give me a £10 note, those are interchangeable items that look exactly the same. They aren't actually unique. NFTs are. So what actually qualifies me to talk about these things called NFTs? Well, those of you that have probably been reading news items or even looking at videos about NFTs will have noticed that NFTs are closely related to items that are collectible. So what does that actually mean? Well, I happen to be a collector. I like collecting things. And actually, I have to just pay tribute to my dear father, who passed away very recently at the age of 90, who had been a collector of many different things for most of his life. That's where my addiction comes from. And my dear father, if you're listening right now, wherever you are, I wish I could have sat with you and explained to you what NFTs are. You would have been absolutely enthralled and fascinated. So then, I'm going to start as a collector by showing you just a few of my favorite things. You may have noticed that behind me here is a rather large tire. It happens to be a Formula One slick that's signed by Eddie Irvine and Michael Schumacher back in 1997, when they were both driving for Ferrari. Secondly, let me share something else with you that I love very much. It's actually a 1957 gold Parker pen. Those of you that know me know that it always travels with me wherever I go, and it was given to me by my dear father. You may have noticed on my wrist, I'm actually wearing a late 1960s Bulova Accutron, which was actually probably the equivalent of an Apple Watch at the time it was released. It's truly space age. Why do I collect these things? Well, I collect them because, for me, I like collecting things that what I would describe as memorabilia. Memorabilia are objects that we associate with memories of people or events. In the case of my dear Bulova watch and my Parker pen, of course they bring back very fond memories of my father. The F1 tyre behind me, of course, brings back memories of the Formula One ball, where in a drunken moment I actually bid and won the tyre. So then, what makes items collectible? Well, the answer is actually bifold. Some of us collect things that for memorabilia reasons, and that very much is the case for me. Others collect things because they view them as investments and want the value to go up. At some point they may choose to trade in those items. So people do collect things for very different reasons. And what makes things collectible? Well, first of all, scarcity makes an item collectible. So the scarcer an item is, especially if it happens to be unique, the more valuable it is. In terms of memorabilia, the things that I've just shown you may have very little value in an auction room, but for me, they're invaluable. So those are the two distinctions I would make as to why people collect things. The value of something, of course, is derived from its scarcity, and good old supply and demand clearly kicks in. But of course, if something is scarce, then we need to show that it is authentic, that it has what we call provenance. And those are all the different things that make an item collectible. The issue here, however, is how do we know that an item that we are going to collect actually has those properties? For example, my watch. How do I trust the fact that it is a 1957 gold Parker pen? Well, actually, in that instance, I trust my father. How do I know that this tyre is in fact a Formula One Ferrari tyre and that these signatures are Mr. Irvine's and Mr. Schumacher's? Well, it was a Formula One ball, so I trust the organizers of the ball. And therein lies the problem, because the provenance of something, or the authenticity of something which actually dictates its value, is actually it's a very difficult subject. And that's true for art, music, wine, cars, the list goes on. In lockdown, I'm sure you've watched by far too much television, but here's something else for you. You might actually want to watch two excellent documentaries on Netflix, one on the fake art industry and the other on the fake wine industry. You'll realize very quickly that it's actually huge business for the fraudsters. And actually for years and years and years, collectors have worried about the provenance or the authenticity of a given item. Enter the blockchain. Now that you're experts on what blockchain is, I won't dwell on the explanation of blockchain technology. But the blockchain technology, which is in fact a network of computers, decentralized computers, this technology allows us to actually timestamp and create immutable records of any form of data. And so now, if we think about creating digital files, whether they be pieces of music, whether they be pieces of art, or even video files, and we put them onto a blockchain with a digital signature, we can now verify the authenticity and the uniqueness of that particular file. So in the last few weeks, you've probably heard about the famous Beeples painting that was sold at a Christie's auction for $69 million. You can actually go and print on your computer a copy of this piece of art, but so can you do so with a reprint of a Van Gogh or a Picasso. It's actually the original item that's digitally signed as an NFT that gives its value, of course. But these examples are growing by the day. You may have heard that in February, a meme of a cat was sold for more than $500,000. Grimes, the musician, sold some of her digital art for more than $6 million. Twitter's founder Jack Dorsey sold an NFT of the first ever tweet which had bids of over $2.5 million. So there's a lot of money starting to change hands in this space. And as I say, the examples are actually growing by the day. Is this a fad? Well, I think that many new movements do start off as fads. But in this case, I actually don't believe so. I think that if we go back to what makes things collectible, the same basic rules apply here. And I believe that another unique property of the blockchain and the NFT on a blockchain is going to serve artists and musicians very, very well, because we can now encode into the NFT, or what we call the smart contract, we can actually encode an automated payment. So every time that piece of art or that piece of music changes hands, the original artist gets a royalty payment. And for how long and on what circumstances, all of that can be encoded into the logic. This is a true game changer, especially for the artists and musicians for whom I feel so tremendously. Remember, Picasso used to sell his unique pieces of art to a restaurant so that he could actually pay for lunch. And now look at the value of those pieces of art. So I think that this is a true game changer. So then, in terms of the examples I've given you, you will note one thing, that actually they all have brand association. And we all know that if we go and buy a piece of art that has a Picasso signature on it, that therein lies a brand. We buy that Picasso from an auction that's hosted by Christie's or Sotheby's maybe. Brand association gives us trust. The same applies in this case. I would love to draw a picture of a cat and sell it for $500,000. I think that's highly unlikely because I'm not really applauded as being very much of an artist. That's why we are beginning to see artists and musicians from all walks of life, including the sports world, of course, beginning to jump on the NFT bandwagon. And I think that's fantastic because new brands, newcomers into the world of art and music are always welcome. And it takes a journey for them to go from their struggles to becoming very successful artists in their own right. But now, with the advent of the NFT, they can be assured that they get paid for their work and that their work can be traded 24/7 on a blockchain. So then, one other topic that I've been asked about several times in the last few weeks is about the environmental friendliness of the NFT. Cambridge University recently did a study which calculates that Bitcoin's total energy consumption is annualized at something like 130 terawatt hours a year, which is about the equivalent of the Netherlands electricity consumption over a year. So blockchain technology isn't particularly energy efficient. But therein, again, lies a reason why I wanted to talk to you today. Because whilst some of these blockchain platforms are beginning to become expensive to use and also consume a lot of electricity, the brilliant team, my colleagues at Zilliqa, who put together the architecture for Zilliqa, have absolutely succeeded in changing all of that. So not only is our protocol highly energy efficient, but it's highly economical to use. So please, if you have any ideas and you want to build, do take a look at the platform called Mintable, which Zilliqa is very proud to be a part of. And finally, a word of caution as a collector. Don't forget the two important Latin words, caveat emptor, or buyer beware. This simple rule in life has always been true throughout history and will always remain true into the future. Anyway, I hope I've given you a little bit of a feel for what NFTs are and the fact that I don't think that they're going to go away. Have fun watching this space and hope you enjoy collecting. Thank you very much.